27th of November 2019, in the central business district of the city of Ningbo in China, an episode of the reality television game show Chase Me was filmed. The premise of Chase Me was relatively simple. Celebrities would try to outrun professional sports people through a futuristic obstacle course. The course was notable for its size and scale. While many game shows make use of obstacle courses, they are usually limited in size. Chase Me, however, took place on a number of massive installations spread around the city centre of Ningbo, with contestants having to race between obstacles as well as through them. The obstacles were often dramatic as well. In most episodes, the climax of the chase consisted of a 20-story vertical climb up the side of a building, or an intense game of tag in a specially designed arena staged in the normally bustling centre of Ningbo. To use this high-profile location, filming had to be done at night. Drama was added to the proceedings by the use of futuristic graphics and costumes, and the show often emphasized how physically demanding it was. Even professional athletes sometimes struggled to keep up with the relentless pace, and celebrity competitors were often filmed complaining that they were exhausted or pushed to their limits. Competing as a celebrity guest on the 27th of November 2019 was Godfrey Gao, a model and film star best known for being the first male of Asian descent to be chosen as the face of the luxury brand Louis Vuitton. Filming took place overnight, starting in the late evening. For that reason, it was around 2 a.m. the next morning before it was Godfrey's turn to tackle another section of the obstacle course. He had been on set for 17 hours at this stage, and while he had not been actively running for all that time, he and his team had endured a strenuous night. Everyone was exhausted, and one competitor had been forced to retire after spraining an ankle. Now, Godfrey set out once more, running at pace to stay ahead of his competition. At first, his performance was strong, but as he reached a checkpoint, he abruptly faltered and fell to the ground unconscious. Paramedics were called and attempted to resuscitate him as he was loaded into an ambulance and rushed to hospital. There, doctors worked on Godfrey for nearly 3 hours, before accepting that he could not be saved and declaring him dead. He had passed away from a sudden heart attack at the age of just 35. Godfrey's death was investigated and found to be likely due to a pre-existing health issue. However, the management of Chase Me was also criticised. The show had not insisted on strict medical screenings and had pushed competitors very hard over the course of a very long night of filming. The production company behind the show cancelled further episodes immediately and issued an apology and an admission of responsibility. The death of Godfrey Gao sparked an intense debate about the possible regulation of TV game shows in China. At present, most game shows filmed there are trusted to regulate themselves and manage their own safety measures for contestants. On the 9th of March 2015, filming for a brand new French reality television series was taking place near the town of Villa Castelli in Argentina. The show, yet to air, was called Dropped and was based on an existing Swedish series. The premise of Dropped was simple. Celebrity contestants would be dropped into a range of harsh and unforgiving environments with very limited equipment and tasked with not only surviving but also finding their way back to civilization. The show would have a competitive element, with the participants divided into 2 teams. Each team would be given a mobile phone with a depleted battery. To be declared the winning team, they would simply have to find their way back to a place where they could charge and then use the phone to place a call. Most of the first series would be filmed in various locations in Argentina. The contestants, most of whom were prominent French athletes, had already survived abandonment on a remote peninsula in the south of the country, and were now, on the 9th of March 2015, ready to be flown by helicopter to a new location for the second round of the game. At around 5 p.m, 2 helicopters took off, one 45 seconds after the other, with several contestants and film crew members on board each. Some of these crew members would be responsible for filming each helicopter from the other, and also filming the production on the ground out of the open door of one aircraft. Producers watched from the ground, along with other contestants who were blindfolded for dramatic effect. As planned, both helicopters rose up into the air and completed a wide circle over the site. As they began to head off to their next destination, one helicopter rose directly into the other from beneath. The 2 aircraft crashed into one another and fell to the ground. The wreckage burst into flames, killing all 10 people on board both helicopters. The dead included 3 contestants: yachtswoman Florence Artaud, Olympic swimmer Camille Muffet, and Olympic boxer Alexis Fastin, as well as 5 of the film crew working on the project: Lawrence Spasnik, Lucy May Dalby, Volodya Guinard, Bryce Gilbert, and Edouard Gillet. Also killed were both helicopter pilots, Juan Carlos Castillo and Roberto Abate. The show was postponed and then outright cancelled, and the remaining contestants sent home. The Argentine and French authorities collaborated on an investigation to find the cause of the accident. Their final report noted that the helicopters used were unsuitable for filming. One was intended only for emergency use, but had been inexplicably lent to a tour operator. The helicopter pilots had also failed to observe normal flight rules, such as a rule that required them to keep other aircraft operating nearby in sight at all times. It was speculated in the media that the pilots, both experienced flyers, had been distracted by the requirements of filming. On the 22nd of March 2013, filming for a new series of a French spin-off of popular American TV show Survivor began in Cambodia. The series, called Koh Lanta and produced by Adventureline Productions, followed the format of its inspiration. Marooned in a desert island-like location, contestants would have to not only survive, but compete in a series of challenges that tested their strength, skill, and endurance. Contestants would form teams, sometimes referred to as tribes, with individual contestants gradually removed one by one until a single winner remained, who would take home a prize of as much as €100,000. One contestant for the series that began filming on the 22nd of March 2013 would be 25-year-old Gerald Babin. As filming began, his performance was strong. He and his fellow contestants filmed a series of challenges. After some time, Gerald complained of cramps and was diagnosed with dehydration. He was given water and continued filming, only for his pain to get worse as time went on. Less than an hour later, he could not go on, and was transported to the on-site infirmary. There, it was discovered that, far from simply being dehydrated, Gerald Babin was experiencing a cardiac arrest. Once this was discovered, he was quickly airlifted to hospital. But the intervention came too late, and he passed away despite the best efforts of doctors. The on-site doctor who treated Gerald was subject to intense scrutiny, and there was much speculation online about whether his treatment had been prompt and appropriate. As a criminal investigation was opened, Dr. Thierry Costa was found dead in his hotel room, with a note insisting that he had treated Gerald appropriately, as a patient, not a contestant, and that his damaged reputation would be impossible to rebuild. The production company denied that Gerald's treatment had in any way been delayed because of filming. The series was put on hold for some time after Gerald's death, but eventually resumed production. It continues to this day. The criminal investigation was eventually closed with no charges filed. Koh Lanta continues to be a popular television series in France and around the world.